The San Antonio Spurs just pulled off the most diabolical choke job ever by leading for 70% of the finals against the Knicks and somehow losing in 5 games. Victor Wembanyama had a massive 62-20 run, only to watch his team blow a double-digit lead in every single game.
I think doesn't compare to anything before. This is the biggest lesson of my life, the biggest learning moment.
But by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly what went wrong in that series and how San Antonio's solution to it might already be sitting on their bench recovering from a torn ACL. Everyone's acting like the San Antonio Spurs are still a few years away from their next championship. What happened in the NBA Finals proves they were actually just one roster adjustment away from lifting the trophy. You probably remember them absolutely blitzing through the Western Conference playoffs, especially that historic Game 4 against Portland where they went down by 15 at halftime and somehow came back to win by 15. No team in NBA history had ever pulled off a 30-point turnaround like that in the postseason, and by the time they went and knocked out OKC, it felt like the championship was completely inevitable. Then the actual finals happened, and the New York Knicks somehow walked away with the ring in 5 games. But the shocking part is that it wasn't some blowout situation where New York just bullied them off the floor. Every single game was a complete dogfight, and the final point differential across the entire series was literally just 12 points. In fact, New York won the championship by basically a layup, and that's the part that should genuinely keep every Spurs fan up at night because it means they were that close. But something very specific made them lose. Oklahoma City actually figured out the blueprint first, and then the Knicks just copied their homework and completely exploited San Antonio's absolute lack of frontcourt depth behind Victor Wembanyama. You won't believe what the coaching staff forced Victor to do just to keep him competitive. His playing time skyrocketed from 29 minutes a game in the regular season to being 40 minutes a game in the finals. I mean, sure, he's an alien, but he's still a human being, and you could physically see his body breaking down because there was no legitimate second option to protect the paint when he needed a breather. Every single minute Victor sat on that bench was basically an open invitation for the Knicks to attack the rim, completely uncontested. So the Spurs didn't need another star, they needed someone who could hold that paint down for 3 minutes so Wemby could actually breathe. This means that General Manager Brian Wright went into the offseason with one clear directive, which was to find a massive defensive anchor who could help Wemby. But what the front office did on draft night was either an act of pure basketball genius or one of the most terrifying gambles in the history of the franchise. Because while everyone else was looking at the obvious healthy choices, the Spurs were busy tracking a former top 10 lottery lock who suffered a devastating medical collapse, and what happened next completely altered the timeline of the entire NBA. Enter Jayden Quaintance, an 18-year-old defensive anomaly out of Cleveland, and before any of the medical chaos started, NBA front offices were projecting this kid as an absolute lock for the top 10 of the lottery. He set an Arizona State single-season freshman record with 63 blocks in 24 games, which works out to over 2.6 blocks a night, earned a spot on the Big 12 All-Defensive team, and was already being added into lottery conversations by basically every major draft analyst in the country.
He measured well. I heard he interviewed well. I think he could hear his name in between the late lottery to end of the first round.
But just as scouts were ready to write his name near the top of the draft board, disaster struck in February 2025 when he tore both his ACL and his meniscus in his right knee. And that was it. His freshman season ended instantly. And suddenly, the most physically imposing prospect in college basketball was forced to sit in the sidelines while his draft value took a massive hit. However, here's where he impressed the entire league. Instead of packing it in, he entered the transfer portal, where the analysts immediately ranked him as the number 4 overall prospect available. He went to Kentucky and set up one of the most anticipated college basketball comebacks in recent memory. On December 20th, when he finally made his official Wildcats debut against St. John's, he only played 17 minutes but managed to completely change the game by dropping 10 points, 8 rebounds, and 2 blocks. So, everyone watching that game was convinced that the lottery talent was officially back and that Kentucky had just secured an elite anchor for March. But everything came crumbling down just 3 games later. The swelling in his right knee returned with a vengeance, forcing the medical staff to completely shut him down for the remainder of the year, which ruined his chance to play in the NCAA tournament. Because of that second physical setback, a guy who was a consensus top 10 pick a year prior fell all the way to the 20th selection on draft night. However, even with the red flags, scouts were still calling him the single best defensive prospect in the class. And that matters specifically for San Antonio because where every other team saw a fragile knee, the Spurs saw a top 10 rim protector. And that brings us to the question everyone was asking that night. Did the Spurs actually have the guts to pull the trigger?
So what I will tell you is that if he were healthy, he would have been a top 10 pick. One of the highest level athletes in the draft, a true defensive savant. His defensive playmaking numbers were off the charts as a freshman at Arizona State before he tore his ACL. Now,
well, San Antonio didn't just pull the trigger on draft night, they basically hijacked the entire back half of the first round while the rest of the league was just sitting on their hands. When Adam Silver announced Jayden Quaintance at pick 20, Spurs general manager Brian Wright basically admitted right to the cameras that if this kid had stayed healthy, there was absolutely zero chance he would still be available at that spot.
He's got tremendous talent. And unfortunately, that was cut short a little bit due to injury. But, you know, had it not been, maybe we don't have the opportunity to draft.
The front office knew they were committing absolute highway robbery based on his pure talent alone, but they also knew they needed immediate help right now, which is exactly why they turned around and pulled off a massive plot twist that nobody saw coming. The front office didn't just settle for one high-risk luxury pick. They actively traded their 35th pick and 2 future second-rounders to the Denver Nuggets to climb back up and snatch Taris Reed Jr. at pick 26. Talk about an absolute masterclass in roster building. Reed is a 6'11" brute who just spent his spring tearing through the NCAA tournament with UConn, and he's the perfect insurance policy to ensure Victor Wembanyama never has to run his legs into the ground again, because this pick was never just about drafting another young prospect. It was a direct statement from the Spurs. We know exactly why we lost the finals, and we're not letting it happen again. But my favorite piece of drama from draft night shows you exactly why the Spurs are still the classiest organization in the NBA. Jayden apparently tried to request the number 21 jersey because it was his grandfather's favorite player. But the staff shut that down faster than a prime Tim Duncan block.
Nah, they cut that off quickly, I'm not gonna lie. As soon as I got drafted, they're like, here's a couple of number options that you'll have. They cut that in pretty fast.
Because you do not get to rock Tim Duncan's number just because you have a nice wingspan. You gotta earn that. Now, after the high of the draft night wore off, the front office obviously bought into his long-term vision. But a devastating update about his current recovery just got leaked. And what comes next could realistically derail his entire rookie season before it even has a chance to start. Jayden literally just confirmed he's headed right back under the knife for another knee procedure. And this is not just some casual ice pack situation either. He's getting a major arthroscopic cleanup on that same right knee. And the guy holding the scalpel is Dr. Riley Williams III, who's the legendary surgeon who fixed Paul George after that horrific Team USA leg fracture back in the day. When you bring in a medical heavy hitter like that, you already know the stakes are astronomical. The worst case scenario is staring everyone right in the face because this cleanup operation carries a massive 6 months recovery timeline. That means there's a very real and terrifying possibility that Jayden will not play for the Spurs until deep into the 2026-2027 season. He might just be completely off for his entire first year in the league. But here's the part that changes the entire equation and flips the panic switch right off. Hidden beneath all that medical doom and gloom is the fact that his actual reconstructed ACL is still perfectly intact. This is not a re-tear, but rather a permanent solution to get rid of that lingering swelling that ruined his college career. And Jayden himself even told reporters that, while he still feels a little pain, he's pushing toward a complete recovery. This murky medical timeline would completely break any other front office in the league, but San Antonio's playing a totally different game. The safety net they built is honestly hilarious when you realize they can just park Jayden in a luxury medical suite while their current veteran frontcourt holds down the fort. Right now, the guys rotating behind Victor Wembanyama are Luke Cornett, Kelly Olynyk, and Bismack Biyombo, which is basically a collection of solid, dependable role players who are nice to have but will absolutely not terrify anyone in an intense 7-game playoff series. This is the exact competitive gap Jayden was brought in to eradicate completely, and he already knows how dangerous the defensive pairing's gonna be. He directly told the media that playing alongside Victor is gonna let him completely shrink the floor and make it genuinely impossible for teams to score in the paint, because their massive wingspans give them the unique ability to close out and guard multiple positions simultaneously.
I feel like we'll really be able to shrink the floor, make it really hard to score in the paint. Also being able to, again, close out and guard those other positions, use our long wingspans to our advantage. I feel like it'll be a great.
Now, what you probably don't know is that this roster shields him from any immediate offensive pressure. With an absolute masterclass of a perimeter core with De'Aaron Fox, Stephon Castle, Dylan Harper, Devin Vassell, and Julian Champagnie, all generating insane floor spacing and elite playmaking, Jayden does not need to worry about developing a post-game right now. He literally just needs to do what he does best, which is wallow up dirty rebounds and turn the interior into a complete no-fly zone. Oh, and by the way, Wembanyama's about to sign a massive 5-year extension that could easily clear $300 million. And with Stephon Castle's rookie extension looming right after that, this payroll's about to get crazy expensive very quickly. So securing a potential starting caliber anchor at pick 20 on an incredibly cheap 4-year rookie scale contract gives him the ultimate cheat code for long-term roster flexibility. If this medical gamble hits, San Antonio did not just grab a backup center, they secured the missing piece of a championship puzzle while their core stars are still relatively cheap. It all brings us full circle to that 12-point differential against the Knicks in the finals. The front office identified the exact structural flaw that cost them a ring, and instead of playing it safe like half the franchises in the league, they chose to gamble on a former top 10 lottery talent who slid right into their hands. The medical risk is undeniably massive and the recovery timeline is completely up in the air, but the ultimate payoff could establish a brand new basketball dynasty in Texas. Drop a comment below and let me know if you think Jayden is gonna be the ultimate draft steal or if the Spurs just wasted a crucial asset on a year of empty development. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on those notifications so you never miss a single breakdown.